DuckTalks is part of Res TV's network of podcasts. Check out res.tv for other great podcasts.
This is James Monroe Iglehart here on DuckTalks, and if you don't know who I am, then you obviously haven't been watching DuckTales, because I am the voice of Taurus Bulba, and on DuckTalks today, let's get dangerous.
It's the week of Monday, February 1st, and you're listening to episode 121 of DuckTalks. Oh man, January flew by, and here we are in February. Of course, we were talking about how December flew by, and all of last year just kind of flew by. And yet, it was the longest year ever, and I'm rambling. We're here for another episode of DuckTalks. It's going to be an amazing episode. We're super pumped. We're both excited and a little nervous, but I think mostly excited because we've got a special guest joining us tonight. We're not going to cover any news or anything like that this week. We'll be back to cover that in a future episode. Make sure you check out DuckTalks.com for any news, to keep you up to date on any news. And always join us over on Twitter for a conversation about Disney Ducks and all the stuff that's going on. There's a lot of products, a lot of merchandise coming out that we've been talking about over the last few weeks. And of course, we've got a new episode of DuckTales coming later this month. But we're super excited about this episode of Duck Talks. We know we've already told you online, if you follow us on Twitter, you already know what's happening tonight. We are going to be on the phone with James Monroe Iglehart, and I'm super excited to get a chance to speak with James. We reached out to him after seeing his conversations on Twitter, or his interactions on Twitter, and could just tell he's a fan. He's a fan of Darkwing, and he was super excited about playing Taurus Bulba. So, yeah, that's going to happen tonight. And let's talk about who's on the call. So, James will be on in just a minute. You have me. My name's Mitch. I'm one of your hosts. And joining me, just like every week that they're here, Pirate Steven and Josh.
Ahoy there. We're very excited for this one.
Hey guys, it's happening.
It's been a crazy January. It flew by. We didn't get a lot of episodes in. We've been talking about our plans for the future. We know that once DuckTales picks back up, we'll be going back into weekly mode as we cover that. And then we're still kind of planning what we're going to do as we move beyond DuckTales 2017. We might talk about that in an upcoming episode as well. How you guys doing with just looking at life after DuckTales?
Is there life beyond DuckTales? I don't know.
It kind of feels like it's been around most of my life, so maybe not.
They just released Dinosaurs on Disney Plus, so kind of think about dinosaurs talks going on.
You know what? Speaking of dinosaurs, we were sitting there, and I always ask my daughter, what do you want to watch? We'll eat or snack. And she saw on there dinosaurs, but it was like the egg that the baby's in, and she was like, egg. And I was like, I guess we're watching dinosaurs. So we started the first episode.
My kids don't like dinosaurs. I've tried it, but they don't like Muppets in general. I don't know where I went wrong.
That's another big thing with Muppets. Muppet Show season 1 through 5 is coming to Disney Plus, and everybody's geeking out about that for great reasons. Yeah. I know I used to buy the DVD box sets, and they released the first 3, and then they advertised the next one, and it never came out. So we're going to get to see a lot of great Muppetness that we've never seen before. Well, people have seen it, but I haven't.
Are those the ones that had like a fuzzy DVD cover? And they have
they had when they originally were released, if you got them back in the day, it was like Kermit, and it'd be like Muppet Fuzz on the DVD, and then they had I think it was Miss Piggy, and then Fozzie. So and Gonzo was going to be a future one, but like I said, they only got to do in the first 3, which makes. If you think about Disney DVDs, they do a couple and then they just give up, or
Yeah. The Muppet Show, I love that show, and I can't wait to watch that. And there's a few of those few of those bits that the kids know. So I'm hoping I can pull them into that. They didn't hate the Muppet movie, the recent one, but yeah, couldn't get them on dinosaurs. But we've been doing a Star Wars marathon rewatch. We started at the very beginning with the Phantom Menace and started working our way forward chronologically. We got through the Clone Wars and Solo, and now we are in Rebels. About to start season 2. Been a long journey.
You're going from movie to TV shows?
Oh yeah, doing it all.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, I'd originally planned on just picking up a few episodes of Clone Wars, but Lexi was pretty adamant we were going through all of it.
You need to start them on WandaVision.
Well, we have been watching WandaVision, although I'll say episode 4 was definitely my favorite so far. And I can't think of the actor, but he's also in Fresh Off the Boat. That guy's good. I really enjoy him.
Officer Wu or something? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Chibi Wu.
And then, of course, we got Darcy back, and not a sitcom parody.
Well, I mean, the next one should be the 80s, so you know it's going to be good.
Yeah, I bet it's the Halloween one that we've seen. I would think, because doesn't the show have like 9 episodes? There's a rumored 10th episode online. But yeah, we're near the halfway point. It's been an interesting show. We should do a Marvel Talks or something. Bonus cast.
They have a bunch of good stuff coming in February. So we got more WandaVision episodes. Also on Disney Plus, they're going to have a couple of Disney parks features, like Illuminations from Disneyland Paris. Oh, yeah. They're going to have that on there. They're going to have Shanghai Disneyland's grand opening gala will be on there. And I would love to see them keep going that route of adding more Disney park stuff, since not all the parks are open right now, just to give people their fix.
Speaking of Disney parks, did you see that there's like the sunrise things on there? All the different parks?
No.
We took that and I was like, I wonder what this is. I'm sitting there. I'm like, what's going on? And then finally, like, the sun just like slowly rises. And then it's just the sun just rises on each one of the parks.
That's on Disney Plus?
Yeah. I fast forwarded because I wanted to see the actual sun to come up. But
I mean, it makes sense for them to do stuff like that, because when you think about it, YouTube, there's this whole subculture on YouTube of just Disney parks content. Why wouldn't Disney be putting out their own stuff? I guess it's kind of cheaper just to let people come in for free and film stuff and produce it on their own. Never mind, I take it back. That's enough talking about everything but DuckTales. Let's jump into this interview. I think we've got James ready to come on. All right, Duck fans, like we said just a moment ago, we've got a great episode planned. I just super excited to have an opportunity to speak with James Monroe Iglehart tonight. How are you doing, James?
I am doing very well, guys. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on.
Please, come on. It's DuckTales. I mean, I couldn't say no. Also, the cool thing is, like, even before when I was doing just Tangled stuff, I started following you guys because you guys started following me, which was, I was like, oh, cool, DuckTales, yes. So, I was like, cool, let's do this. So, I'm a Disney kid, so I couldn't help myself.
Well, it was really cool because when we first got word that you were going to be in DuckTales, I can't remember. I think it was on a release and it didn't say who you were playing. Yes. And then as we got closer to time, like behind the scenes and in some of our podcast episodes, we were trying to figure out who's playing who. And then when we realized that it was going to be Taurus Bulba, we were like, okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good casting right there. And then immediately you started liking and replying and retweeting things about the show, and then fans would share stuff, and you were all over that too. And I was like, wait a minute, this guy pays attention to Duck Twitter.
Oh yeah, I think the fun thing is, I like to find out what's happening with the the Disney cartoon universe, just like everybody else. And I was a big DuckTales fan, when I was a kid. I'm 46 now. But when this cartoon started, I did the Disney fan thing, and I no disrespect Disney fans. I've been in the Disney family for a long time, but what we do as Disney fans. The minute we hear something, we get excited for 5 seconds, and then we immediately get mad at what any new information comes out. So DuckTales came out, and they immediately said they were going to have all new voices, and they weren't. The Launchpad wasn't going to be about it. And me, like everybody else, was like, "Wow, dare they? Why don't they just use the same voice actors for it?" And I was like, wait, stop, James, stop. So after I had an hour of that crap, I went looking at the people that were doing it. I was like, oh, these are really good actors. I can't wait to see what they're going to do. And then I watched the show, and then I think it was I was doing Hamilton, and I just decided to watch. I just binge watched all of the episodes. So before the show, in between shows, intermission, I was watching DuckTales. So just watched everything, especially because when I wanted to get to the Darkwing episode. So, I am just as excited. Like when you guys hear about things, I get just as excited to hear what Disney's throwing down the pike too. Because even though I'm in the family, some of the things they throw at, I'm just as surprised as everybody else.
Yeah, I think when we heard about that, all the new voices, we all got a little scared, and then they released like a thing on YouTube where they were singing the original theme song, and then everybody was like, "Oh,
yeah,
we're in."
Because you grow up with something, and you hope that the people who are going to step in have the same reverence and have the same respect that you have for the show. I remember when the offer came through for for this character, and all I kept thinking was, oh my gosh, I mean, this is Tim Curry. This is Tim Curry. And it's not like, don't get me wrong, so many voices, you have Jim Cummings and all these wonderful voice actors who do these things, but Tim Curry is not just a voice actor. Tim Curry is like this anomaly of a legend from Broadway to movies to TV, and he did this role. And so for me to step in as this Broadway guy, I just was waiting for the fans just to start throwing eggs at Twitter. I was like, okay, I'm so happy to be here, but I know they're about to eat my butt up, so I have to be good.
And it was funny. I think because the cast had already gone through what we were discussing before, everybody was more okay with your casting. But we did see a little bit of that. If they're doing Taurus, they have to. And then when it didn't happen, it was like, okay, I can kind of see this though. And I think that really works for the show because you're right. All of the casting, all the voice actors, all the actors and actresses are just phenomenal. And the show, it does a great job. We've talked about it a lot. The show does a great job of being respectful of what came before, but paving it a whole new path and doing something totally different. And your character was, although you can definitely see some of that classic Taurus in a lot of what happens, but that switch that takes place in the episode, and we'll probably get a little more into that, to where when he first comes out, I was stunned because he's so buddy and happy, but that character did kind of have those qualities.
Oh yes, yeah. I think one of my favorite moments was like, in the original Darkwing Duck episode when they go to see Taurus. He's the model citizen in jail and everything is fine. And then when he realizes, oh wait, this isn't working, he pushes the button. She comes out, and all of a sudden, his flying head, breaks from jail and just leaves. So it was that moment of I watched that episode several times in a couple different episodes with him in it, just to get that feeling of that dual switch of he knows how to play to a crowd, but deep down, you also have to think about what I love about DuckTales is the animal that these characters actually are. Taurus is a bull. He's a male bull. They're not they're nice animals until you piss them off, and then it's over. They're ramming speed, and it always makes me laugh at that wonderful person who wants to run with the bulls, and then you see them get killed. You see them get knocked over a fence. You're like, well, you were running with a bull. So I kind of kept that in mind when we were doing the character.
That's cool. Well, let's talk a little bit about, you've already mentioned that you're a longtime fan of Disney.
Yes.
I've heard you speak about that before. But can you tell us a little bit about, did you watch the Disney Afternoon? Maybe what were your favorite shows?
Favorite shows were, not in order, but they are Gummy Bears. when Disney Plus first opened, that first morning I was in LA, I was filming a TV show. I got up in the morning, I turned on Disney Plus, and I looked around, and when I saw Gummy Bears, that was the first thing I watched on Disney Plus. So
me too.
Yeah, Gummy Bears, I was a huge fan. Tailspin, I wasn't as big as a fan because I'm such a big Jungle Book fan. Don't get me wrong, Tailspin is great, and I did watch it. But when DuckTales came out, I was hooked. I was hooked, and I'm a huge Batman fan, which is crazy because I also work for Marvel. And hopefully they don't see this and kill me. But I have a Batman tattoo on my left shoulder. So when they brought Darkwing Duck out, and Darkwing was a mixture of, DuckTales and Batman, and also, Get Smart, that type of thing. It just sold it for me. So I mean, between Gummy Bears, DuckTales, I'm not a big, what starts with a B, not the cat, the
Bonkers.
Bonkers was cool. It was all right, but I really, really got into Chippendale Rescue Rangers. I mean, that song is an earworm that will stay in your head for the rest of your life, and so I loved that. I also loved when, for a slight moment, they put gargoyles in that Disney afternoon, and that was my show, because all my Star Trek Next Generation voices were on that. So I was a huge fan. Even Quack Attack, just watching. It was weird to see, Donald in that light, but it was fun. But I mean, I really, really, and the Goof Troop. I've been in love with the Goof Troop since the Goofy movie. So when they made the Goof Troop and it all went together, I was like, so yeah. So to answer the question, yeah, was I a fan of the Disney afternoon? Yeah, I would come home and watch that, and then when nobody would know, I would tape He-Man and the rest of the other things, but I would watch Disney afternoon as it was happening.
Do you have a favorite theme song? Because different favorite show and favorite theme song can be totally different.
Yeah, my favorite show, of course, is Darkwing, but my favorite my favorite theme song is Chippendale Rescue Rangers, and there's a definite reason for that. No, actually, it's a tie between Chippendale Rescue Rangers and the Gummy Bears, because you look at these cartoons and they're wonderful pieces of animation, but the people singing the songs are singing as if they are waiting for a Grammy for a pop album. They are singing their faces off. When the boys get to the Chippendale, you're like, you are singing for the gods for a cartoon that nobody of that ilk that sings like that is listening to this song. But then here I am thinking that we had a blackout of New York City, or I should say half of New York City. Something happened, and we were all in the Hamilton Theater waiting to see if we were actually going to do the show. From the corner of the stage, I'm backstage doing some stuff, and I hear in the front of the stage, my boy Wallace, who played at the time, he played Madison. He's like, James, you know the lyrics to this. James, sing Chippendales. So we started singing Chippendales, and the Hamilton cast began to sing at the top of their lungs Chippendales Rescue Rangers, and people were, I mean, these are like some singing people. People were singing like it was a gospel tune. And I was like, every time I hear that song, it cracks me up because those singers were killing themselves because they were like, you know what? This is just a song. This is a song, but I'm gonna make this money. I'm gonna earn this dollar. So Gummy Bears and Chippendale Rescue Rangers are my two favorite theme songs from the Disney.
And I wonder where that came from. I mean, I wonder if it was a mandate from someone. Like, no, we need to go more like this.
I think so, but you can if you go to the parks. I think one of my favorite things is going to the parks and watching some of watching the fireworks show or watching Fantasmic and the new versions of like Beauty and the Beast. And they are like just riffing for no reason. There's no need for that song to have any riffs. And they're like, Beauty and the Beast. You're like, why are you singing so hard on this princess song? I think it's just a Disney mandate that once you're in the recording studio, they go, do a nice version. And okay, let's go to the radio. Let's see what happens. So that's kind of what I think when they get in there.
That's a fun time. That album, the Disney Afternoon Collection, that's a great album.
It's a great album. Yeah. My wife has caught. I make the mistake sometimes of leaving things in the car, and I've been caught listening to the Country Bear Jamboree, and I've been caught listening to Disney Afternoon. The problem is not me being in the car when I'm caught. It's the phone call I get as my wife is driving in the street going, "What is this? Why is the radio so loud? And why were you blasting Darkwing Duck at 10? I'm like, you weren't supposed to hear that. That's what was supposed to happen. So that has happened several times.
That Darkwing Duck.
That bass line is so dope. That bass line is one of the dope. It's just, it kicks, so you have to turn it up and just drive down the street really fast.
We were hoping they were going to give you some like Taurus a singing role or something.
I just hope that he gets to come back. I had so much fun doing it. That well, I guess I could tell you the story. So we did what we thought was just going to be the cartoon, and we did it. And then all of a sudden, I get a call a couple months later. They said, "Hey, I mean, the cartoon's out now, but I guess there was a moment in the storyline where Taurus was supposed to go into the vortex like everybody else, and it didn't happen. So they called me back and they said, hey, Taurus is not going to go in. So let's go back in and record some stuff. And that was the part 2, of the Darkwing episode. So I was so happy that I got called again to do, this 2-parter episode, that was shown as 1 hour for its premiere. But it was supposed to be just one 30-minute episode, a 22-minute episode. And then here we are. And so I was juiced. I was so juiced.
Yeah, you mentioned your love for a Goofy movie, and this kind of feels like the Darkwing Duck movie since they pushed 2 episodes. So it's really cool that you got to do the main villain in that. That's awesome.
You listen. The fun part is, I mean, I don't know where your questions are going to go, but I'll just tell you the story because I talk a lot, as you can see. They had the audition for Darkwing, and they were basically looking for all these actors, and I got called in, and I told my friends who worked at Tangled, I was like, I got called in for Darkwing Duck. I got called in for Darkwing Duck. And I don't know what to do. I'm trying not to be too overly excited, because I really want this. If I could be Darkwing, my life would be, I'd have to do nothing else in life, And we go in and everybody goes in as reading extremely well. I mean, I see the guys coming out and I know these brothers. I know these guys. They do cartoons all the time. And then we didn't hear anything because that's usually what happens. You go in there and you don't hear anything for like months. And so every month I'll go, hey, did you hear anything? No, didn't hear anything. If they really liked you, you're not done. My agent will go, you're not done. And then all of a sudden I get this call. They're like, hey, they went a different direction for Darkwing. And I was like, totally understand. I get it. And when I heard what they were going for, the guy who played it is going to play a little bit more like Jim Cummings because Jim Cummings is coming back to do, Negaduck. I heard that. And I was like, cool, I get it. And as an actor, you're depressed for like a day and you let it go and move on. You're like, at least I got to go in there. And then I get an email from my agent from the Disney Brothers that said, hey, we know. Also, I wore a Darkwing shirt to my audition. And when I met the guys, I literally just went crazy. Was like, hey, I'm such a big Darkwing Duck fan. Blah, blah, blah. So I spent like 5 minutes kind of doing this, verbal diarrhea of my love for, Disney Afternoon. And so they sent an email to my agent saying, we know we went a different direction with Darkwing, but we know James is such a fan of the show. Do you think he would want to play Taurus Bulba? And I was like, I knew exactly who he was. I knew what I was getting into. And I was like, yes. Oh my gosh, yes. So I worked on a Russian accent, to get it down. I had it, and we got into the studio and I started doing it. And it was right around the time that there was some issues with our former president and another world leader. And should we bring Russia into this family show and go or should we just let it go? So I did, 3 different versions, one Russian, one this and something else. And they were like, hey, let's just try your, just your evil voice. The voice I would use on my younger brother when the lights were off. And, and I did that and they were like, go with that. And so that's when, I went to the bathroom. I kind of went and got on my phone and kind of just to watch Taurus again, just to kind of get the feel, but do it in my own way. And then they just let me go. And I will also tell you this is the honest to God truth. When I got to say the line, I didn't know I got to say the line because you get part of the script and when you get there, the whole thing's there. When I got to say, let's get dangerous, I teared up. Honest to God, teared up when I got to say it because I was like, my whole childhood was let's get dangerous. So the fact that I got to say it, it was over for me, man. How
did that rank with your Tony Award? Was it like,
you know what? The funny thing is, I know that 20 people are going to kill me. It is literally, it matches it. It is damn, I felt the exact same because with the Tony Award, I was like, oh my God, I'd kill myself to win this, but to be in DuckTales. It's like, right? That's like my, that's my, preteen self just going, oh my God, it'd be so cool. Like I was that kid who, when I had all the hip hop albums. I had LL, I had Fat Boys, Salt and Pepper, Eric B. and Rakim, EPMD, had all those brothers. But when all my homeboys were gone, I had a book because there was no internet. I had a book of all of the voiceover artists, and there was Jim Cummings, and there was I can't, all of a sudden their names are leaving me, but everybody who does all the Disney stuff, they were all there. The guy who did Mickey and his wife who did Minnie. I would watch the old behind the scenes of like Mickey's Christmas Carol and them all doing the voices of who did what. It was just, Alan doing, Scrooge McDuck. I knew them, and I would read about them and find out what else they did. So to be a part of this show that had so much history and so much history for me, you ask my wife. I came home after taping, and I was high as a kite. I mean, I was so crazy. I went to work, and just. I could hardly be Jefferson on stage because I was thinking about the fact that I was a bull, a couple hours before. So it was the best day of my life.
That's awesome. I mean, and that's one of the things that we love about the show and you being a part of the legacy of DuckTales is that you are obviously such a fan. I don't think anybody could watch this and not. I mean, you just compared it to winning a Tony. So, I mean, we'll try to keep that on the low. That's really cool. I love that and that enthusiasm, and we hope the character comes back in some form. And I think it was the episode or the episodes where, I mean, they're ranked up there with the top episodes of the series. Absolutely, and no small part because of your contributions. Because he's a great villain. I mean, if you can't do Negaduck, where else do you go? You go to that first villain.
Right, you go to the first villain, and that's the fun part about being able to step into those shoes. Because it was a little nerve-wracking, but it was also such a wonderful place to be because that was Darkwing's first villain. When the show came out, that was his first villain. And for them to kind of pay homage to that first episode, if having Gosling there, we're looking for, her grandfather and the key and all that kind of stuff. And, it was awesome to be a part of it. And also when I looked at the script and realized, even though we didn't see each other, the fact that I got to talk to Scrooge McDuck, I was like, that's Doctor Who, man. We are talking. I am good.
So, and that was one of the questions that I wanted to ask, because I know that you're friends with Lin-Manuel Miranda, who's been on the show and not on our show. If you could tell him about our show, we would love to have him.
I'll definitely tell him.
But we're huge fans. But he when DuckTales was announced, like the big push, his name was there. Yes. And they were letting everybody know. And I know you guys are like really close friends from what I've been able to tell from.
Yeah, we're in the group Freestyle Supreme together. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was wondering, was that ever part of the conversation? Did he ever tell you, hey, you should do this? Or did he call you up and was like, hey, guess what I'm doing next week?
No. What's funny is it came. He texted me, I think right around the time that it had come out, and I flipped out. I said, "You're Gizmo Duck?" I said, "Do you understand how I feel about this?" And he was like, "Yes, I've been waiting for your call for days." Because that's great. You wrote In the Heights. That's great. You wrote Hamilton. You're Gizmo Duck. The superhero of DuckTales, dude. I was like, and he was like, and he said, I totally get why this is important. I mean, I'm so excited because he, like me, was a huge Disney Afternoon fan. I don't know if you've heard the story, but one of the reasons why he rhymes the way he does is because of When There's Trouble, You Call DW. That was the first time he ever heard a compound rhyme. And when he realized that you could do that, that was the moment that it changed the way he wrote songs as a teenager, was because of When There's Trouble, You Call DW. He was like, and then you go back and look at his stuff and all that's there. So I was so excited. I was so proud for him. And I kept telling him, I said, man, I just got to get on DuckTales. Man, I got to get on DuckTales. Man, I got to get on DuckTales. Because he knew I was doing Tangled at the time. So when we were, discussing just how we do things and what was happening, and when it came out, that I was doing it, we were doing freestyle on Broadway. And he was like, oh, so I hear that you're going to be on DuckTales. I'm like, yes, as a matter of fact. I'm like, oh, so I'm the main villain. I said, I hope we don't meet up for your sake. He was like, so we were backstage just really ribbing each other totally about this.
I do kind of, and I love Chris as Drake Mallard, but I do feel like we kind of missed an opportunity to have you guys, across the table from each other, Gizmo Duck and Darkwing. That would have been a lot of fun, I think.
Well, if there's ever a moment where they get the Justice Ducks together, I'm pretty sure I'll be around.
That would be awesome.
That's at least what I'm hoping.
How did you handle actually watching the episode? Like, did your wife have to like calm you down or hand you tissues or something?
Yeah, she did. I sat there. My kids were there with me, and I was tearing up because like I said, there were several times when I teared up when I first, saw the line that I got to do. And then when I came back and you have to come back and like, they have rough cut and you have to come back and do ADR for it. And to see it was like, oh my God, that's amazing, and then to actually sit back and watch it on the Disney Channel and see it as a cartoon with the commercials and everything that's happening, to watch it as it's live and you go, oh my gosh, that's me. I remember every moment I said a line. I remember what I was doing or how many times I did it. My wife just, she said, "Are you okay?" Because I couldn't like laugh at the episode. I enjoyed it, but I was kind of like just holding back tears because I kept going back to being a kid in junior high school and high school, and telling people my dreams, but certain dreams you just you don't tell. And I was like, yeah, I want to be a rapper and I want to, maybe be on Broadway, but I know I want to be an actor in movies. But, there's also this voice thing I want to do. And people are like, cartoons? What? Cartoons? I was like, yeah, you still watch cartoons when you're a kid? I was like, kind of keep it quiet because, say Disney to 2 people. Somebody always got an opinion. Disney this. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah. They're laughing all the way to the bank, and whenever you need to pick me up, I don't see you hiding your Little Mermaid album. Mm-hmm. So the fact. So when people, to sit back and watch the show, it was just one of those moments where I kind of let it wash over me, the fact that I was so blessed to do it, and that it was a dream come true. I was like, wow, this happened. So when it was all over. The kids left, we ate dinner, the kids left, and I asked my wife, I said, can I watch it again? And she was like, I was hoping you'd say that. Let's watch it again. And I watched it again and just enjoyed it. I just enjoyed it for the cartoon that it was. So it was great.
I think we watched it 3 times that first night. and speaking of which, that episode got a lot of love from Disney, and it's one of 2 episodes that they posted on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it has over 1 million views for an hour long. I mean, something on YouTube that's an hour long. That's really good.
Yeah. I think that people not that they forget, but there's a moment where you realize there's certain milestones in entertainment, and the Disney afternoon is one of those milestones. And DuckTales itself was an anomaly. I mean, these are characters that most of the fandom knew of, but they weren't the stars. It's Mickey, Donald, Goofy. This was Scrooge McDuck, and Scrooge McDuck's big thing was that he was in the comic books, and then for him to hit it when they did Mickey's Christmas Carol, that's great. That's that 1 30-minute movie. But then for them to base a whole cartoon around Scrooge McDuck and the nephews of Donald and go for that without Donald being there, without Daisy being there, without Mickey, and creating a whole world, and from that world breaking out and doing Darkwing, which was literally made up out of the air from this show. And it hits so hard and people still know it and people still talk about it. There are still McDonald's toys that you can find, or if you do find them, they're so expensive, because if you could find Darkwing, you found like the Holy Grail. Mm-hmm. So, it was one of those moments where when they brought it back, it was great, and just to be a part of that, that history is crazy.
Yeah, it's really cool to hear that you're such a fan of voice acting. And that you were looking forward to it. You just said that it was something that, even as a childhood dream you wanted to do, because I was wondering about that. With your career, you've such a phenomenal career, Broadway and on stage and behind the camera. And so that's always one of our questions is what led you to voice acting? And I think we've already heard that. Yeah. But was Lance from Tangled, Lance Strongbow, was that your first voice acting, or did you do something before that?
That was my first with Disney. I had done a couple things with PBS. Okay. So I had done a couple things like that, little things, and I'd done some video games, when I was younger. So being a voiceover artist was always what I wanted to do. My dad has a great voice, and I loved James Earl Jones doing Star Wars. I loved Keith David being Goliath, and the rest of the Next Generation cast and the rest of that cast. I loved listening to I can't think of his name, but the voice of Skeletor, who's also the voice of Falcor in Neverending Story, or Jim Cummings, or Mel Blanc, or June Foray. I mean, or Paul Frees from all the Disneyland rides. I mean, I loved those guys. The fact that Paul Frees could be, the host, the ghost host, but also turn around to be the pirates in the Pirates of the Caribbean, and also be Ludwig von Drake at the same time. I loved voice acting, and like Phil Harris was like the first voice that I heard that I was like, he was Baloo, and I would for he to go, whoa, that's amazing. And then I would watch late night, on Saturday nights, watch late night Twilight Zones with my dad, and hear like half the Jungle Book cast because they were all in the Twilight Zone because they were all actors in L.A. So those guys and the people who did those, I would recite cartoons at school. That's how my teachers got me to be quiet. So as you can see, I'm a hyper kid. So I would talk a lot. And they were like, hey, James, calm down. If you calm down and do your homework, I will let you get up at the last 10 minutes of class and like do a scene for the kids. And so I would get up and I would do like Robin Hood talking to Little John. I would do Daffy talking to Bugs. I would, do these two-person characters. Like it was a mixture of theater, but also being able to do the cartoon. So I've always had this love of, voice acting from the moment I first saw what animation was. And so I knew however I could get into it, I wanted to. And if I can get into a Disney cartoon, I knew I was like, yeah, that's it right there.
Your Oogie Boogie is phenomenal. I've seen you do that song so many times. Was Nightmare Before Christmas a big inspiration and for you?
Oh gosh, yes, because again, it's the show itself, it's the project itself, the movie. It's wonderful, but also it was one of those movies of connection to me because Ken Page is from Broadway. And he was one of my idols. I have a couple of guys that I really looked up to as far as Broadway's concerned, and Ken Page played Oogie Boogie, and Ken Page was also the understudy for Ted Ross, who was the original Lion in the Wiz. So when Ted Ross left to go do another project, Ken Page stepped in, and I ended up doing Ken Page's role in Ain't Misbehaving in college. And so I was following his career and how he got to where he goes. And I was a big Lion fan because of the Wiz. So I'd follow Ted Ross, but also was a big Lion fan for, Burt Lauer from, Wizard of Oz, who was also a voiceover actor. So I just, when I heard Ken do that, I was like, it's also I'm a baritone, not many baritone songs out there. So especially in Disney, not many baritone songs, all the tenors singing up in the sky for some reason. Usually because of Alan Menken, and he knows my beef with him about that. I love him, but he knows my beef with him about that. So to hear Ken Page sing this song, I was like, okay, I got to learn this tune. And I got the privilege of singing it for Danny Elfman when he got the Disney Lifetime Achievement Award at D23. So, and then when this with the pandemic came up, I was like, okay, we got to do this concert. Let's have a ball. And they were like, who are you playing? I was like, well, I'm playing Oogie Boogie. I'm directing this thing. I'm about to cast myself. So I'm doing. I think Steve is muted.
Oh, Steven, you're muted.
Yeah, I said they wanted you to play Sally, and you were like, no.
I was like, nah.
That's not gonna work.
I'm producing this. I'm gonna do my own thing.
Yeah, that was a great performance. I actually watched it, I think you did a performance from it on a show and it was on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I watched that, and it was great. My kids actually just watched Nightmare Before Christmas for the first time this year, and it's a huge favorite at the house. Hey. Halloween was a success for the first time this year.
Yeah, you know what? When you can't go anywhere, it's amazing the things you can come up with.
Exactly. Now, leading into talking about your career and before the pandemic with things that were going over on Broadway, you mentioned earlier about being in Hamilton.
Yes.
And I remember this is so funny. I was reading Chernow's Washington biography at work while listening to Spotify, and I had it was either Star Wars or Indiana Jones. It was John Williams soundtrack on in my headphones, so that I was tuning everybody else out while I was reading, and an ad came up for this album, Hamilton, and I had never heard of the show before. I'm just out of touch, and I'd never heard of it before, but the album had just dropped. I was like, all right, I'm going to check this out. And I fell in love with that thing. I'm not a huge musical. I like my Disney
Of
musicals,
course,
my
yeah.
Disney movies, but I've never really followed Broadway. That's honest to goodness the first show that I was like, I got to see this. I need to see this. Like I had it in my head how things were happening.
Yeah.
But I was like, how am I going to see this? And then when I found out that you played Lafayette and Jefferson, just blew my mind. And I haven't been able to find that anywhere. Is there anywhere you can tell us where we can actually see a clip?
I I'm pretty sure if you look, there's some deep cuts, there's some deep bootlegs on YouTube that if you look closely, I've glanced at them and let them go, because I'm not
Okay.
supposed to be
Well,
there. But
I
I
didn't
was like,
know if
oh, okay, cool.
anybody, yeah, I didn't know if anybody had put anything out, like if there'd been any.
I think that there's a couple of clips of something of me doing stuff. Yeah.
It's such a great role, both of
Yes, it
them.
is. Oh yeah.
And I've since watched some interviews that you've done where you talked about doing the show and you being friends with Lynn and
Yeah.
then just what it means. I can't wait to catch it sometime. I hope I get to watch it. And that got us talking about, man, Aladdin, Broadway musical. We need that
Yeah.
on Disney Plus. It would be so great if Disney would get these
I,
shows out
I,
there.
I think they're working on that. I think they're working
Okay.
on trying to get their shows out because they've got Newsies on,
Yeah.
they got Hamilton on. I think when they saw that Broadway is really working, there's also another channel called Broadway HD. So I think when they realize that people are going to those channels to see stuff, I think Disney, there's like top Disney is looking down and going, okay, Disney theatrical, maybe we should do some things. So I think some things will be coming through soon. So
That'd be
hopefully
awesome.
we'll get more.
Because
Yeah.
they probably have like your Aladdin taped from when you first started, right?
Yeah, but they'll probably. I think they have one that they like. I think they film. They have one where like they film certain things for certain purposes. So they probably have one archival that'll be working, or they may have done a new one. You never know. Which like certain things with Disney like you never know until they decide to tell you what's happening. It's kind of like the Mandalorian. You're like, what happened?
Ain't
How
that
come we
the
didn't
truth?
know? How'd they keep that secret? Disney's real good at the secrets, but in a good
Oh,
way
yeah.
for the fans.
Yeah, I mean, you like that surprise. I mean, as
Yeah.
a podcast and a website who tries to cover DuckTales at the same time, I mean, the surprise of finding out that Darkwing Duck is, that twist. We've not talked about that. That twist where, Darkwing Duck was a fictional show. And
That
then,
was such a great moment. I was so excited because I was like, how are they going to mix this together? And when they decided that it was a show, and the fan of it, of course, was Launchpad. Because Launchpad was in the show, and it was like, how are they gonna do that? So when they made it, in his mind, the little hints of like, oh my, I used to believe I was a part of this show. I was like, that's brilliant. And I told the guys too. I was like, that was awesome. I was totally on board with that. So when, of
yeah,
course, when Drake shows up and he's an actor, I was like, oh, that totally hit that just was close to my heart. I was like, well done, guys, well done.
yeah, Launchpad's one of us.
Yes, he is one of
Yeah.
us. He was, and I think that also brought in Launchpad being a fan of the cartoon. Also brought in people who never had watched, or were too young, or had never watched the Disney Afternoon. So that was a great. He was kind of like their gateway into what was happening into the show. So if you didn't know what was going on, you could watch it through Huey and Launchpad's eyes and go, oh, okay, I see why they like it. And then it bridges you into the new world they were creating. Also, I have to say, and you guys have probably already talked about this, one of the things I loved about DuckTales was that I told a friend of mine. So this is what like when grown men, like we're doing right now, when grown men talk about cartoons, like people talk about Star Wars, it was one of my
Why
favorite things.
not?
So the DuckTales, the DuckTales Disney Afternoon universe, when they started hitting on little things from this other past shows, like the gummy berry juice or things like that, I was like, these are some deep cuts for the fans of this show. If you just like animation and you watch the show, that's brilliant. But if you were a kid or at least a preteen or somewhere around there when the Disney Afternoon came out and you watched all those shows, and this show is now smacking of that era and saying, look, we're going to let you know that, yes, we know, and it's all in the same world. it was just great, especially when every company wanted to have their own universe, the monster universe, the MCU, this and that. The fact that the Disney afternoon had its own universe and it all it was like, as a fan, I literally was like losing it. I was on a plane one time. I was on a plane going to LA to film something when I watched the episode of the Gummy Bear moment, and my wife hit me. She was like, "If you don't stop damn near screaming in this plane." I'm like, "They got Gummy Bear jewels and DuckTales." She goes, "Dude, listen to the sentence you just said. Listen to the sentence you just said on this plane." I was like, "Yeah, you're right. I sound crazy. Okay, I'm gonna put my earphones in and just watch the show." So yeah.
And we know Webby still has the gummy berry juice, so we're like, finale. What's gonna happen?
Thank you. I can't wait.
Yeah, there's so many things they can still do with the show.
So many things they can still do.
Can't wait to see. Would love to see your character come back. I don't know how much time you have. We have some questions from people on Twitter. Would that be okay?
Please. Totally.
All right. So the first one that we have, I'll kick us off, guys, and then you can kind of come in next. Turtle Duck Dog 1 says, actually says no question, just wanted to say that I could listen to James recite the phone book. His voice is amazing. I meant to holler at you earlier and ask you to have a phone book ready.
That's so funny. I don't have a phone book ready, but I do have. Go with the next question and we'll see what I can come up with, because that should be fun.
Do you want to do it, or do you want me to, Steve?
Go ahead,
Justin.
All right. The next one is at Robert Kidd Carl.
Yes.
Has he ever seen the original incarnation of DuckTales and Darkwing Duck, respectively?
I think we can skip.
I think we got that.
Yes, I have. I'm kind of a fan. Yes.
That was a dud. I'm sorry, it wasn't a dud question, but we already covered it.
Yeah, and most of these you've already covered, but King of Tunes asked, how did it feel going from the sweet, lovable Lance to the villainous Taurus Bulba?
It felt amazing. It felt absolutely amazing. I'm sorry. It's fantastic to play a hero, but it is just invigorating to play a villain, because your hero is only as good as your villain is. I'm a huge professional wrestling fan. I mean, I've watched professional wrestling since I was 10 years old, and you have a great good guy, but if your heel isn't good, there's nothing for the good guy to do. He's just walking around. He or she just walking around in a cape and shorts and tights and just looking around at people going, "Hey, how you doing?" If there's not someone to blow up a building or like go after rob somebody, your hero is pointless. They basically just get a job, doing something that really uses their skills, So don't get me wrong, but what's funny is Lance is not exactly a hero. He's an anti-hero. He's only a hero because, his friend is now being one. He's like, "Oh, I guess I got to turn over a new leaf if I want to live in this castle." I mean, it wasn't until the last season that Lance really changed his heart. So,
great character. So we have Claude Karinga says, what other character from Darkwing Duck or DuckTales could you see yourself voicing?
Probably the Liquidator. I love Liquidator only because everything he does is in commercials. So it would have been fun to be like, "And now going to beat up Darkwing Duck with a bottle of ammonia." That would have been fun to just to play with that, just because it's awesome.
Let's see. Oh, the next one is at Sulfur Money. They say, not necessarily a question, but he did an awesome job portraying Taurus as a nice, likable character, and also did an amazing switch to being an antagonist.
Thank you very much. I enjoy that.
I love the line at the beginning where you goof on Bradford, talking about somebody that's all about money.
Yes.
Monster.
I was like, that was fun. Just the little things they gave me were just really, really fun to do.
Yeah. So Tobias Foxtail,
yes,
over on Twitter, wanted to know if you had an opportunity to speak with Tim Curry about the role.
I did not, because at the time, Tim was sick, I believe, so I wasn't able to talk to him. I have been in the same room with the man, and I did a show with his roommate many, many years ago, and he was there, and I was like, "Hi, I'm James." And he was like, "Hi, I'm Tim." And I was like, "Oh, that's amazing." Yeah. So it was one of those kind of moments. So you
did you get a
that,
chance to meet Tad Stones, the creator of Darkwing?
No, I did not.
Okay,
But
didn't know.
I did follow him. And I just like to basically thank you. I went I hit up Jim Cummings also on Twitter and just said thank you. That was before even I got the show. That was just because I'm just a fan. But for that person who asked me to read something, I just want to say that Wikipedia is a free, multilingual, open, collaborative online encyclopedia created and maintained by a community of volunteer editors using Wiki-based editing system. It is one of the 15 most popular websites ranked by Alexa as of January 2021. And the Economist newspaper placed it as the 13th most visited place on the web. There you go.
Goosebumps.
Can't handle it.
Just nerdy for no reason.
That was awesome. Looking through these, we've gone through most of
them
these.
are just telling you how great you are, but you already know
Thank
that.
you, guys. Thank you.
That's true.
One of them, Pulsefire220 says, "How is recording for Hell of a Boss?"
That was so much fun. The funny thing about recording for Hell of a Boss is it is a adult show. So I'm letting you guys all know, all you parents, all you family people who are listening and watching to this DuckTales podcast right now, know this. If you're going to watch that show on YouTube, the kids cannot listen. I'm letting you know. And the funny thing is, I was doing Aladdin, and I got the chance to do Black Dynamite, which is awesome. It was a movie. It was based on a blaxploitation film. It was like a parody of a blaxploitation film, and then they made a cartoon of it for Cartoon Network. And I got to sing a song on it. But I was working for Disney at the time, and they wanted me to cuss, and I was really afraid. Like, I had just started working for them, and I was afraid that if they heard me, I would be in trouble. So I did a pseudonym name. I won't say what it was because I may use it again someday. You never know. But now, after the Tony, and I had done Tangled and Disney knew who I was, when I got to do this and I was doing Hamilton and, Hamilton, you're cussing up a storm or coming down the stairs and all that kind of stuff. No, not every song in Hamilton is cussing for you who don't know, but there's a couple moments. So, just FYI. But when I got to do Hell of a Boss, I couldn't wait to do it. And what's funny is the young lady, Vivian, who is the creator and director of the show, I met her while she was on the fan line at Aladdin. She was behind. I was signing autographs. She said, "I'm an animator." I said, "Really?" She drew a picture and showed me. And I said, "You've got to come backstage." So I brought her backstage and I showed her the picture that Andreas, who is the animator who drew Jafar, and also John Lasseter had drawn Woody and Buzz on our wall. And so Jafar was on the wall. They each had a pen they drew. And I said, "These are the guys." And I said, "That could be you. Please keep doing what you're doing." I said, "Keep me posted." I said, "You never know. You may hire me one day." We've stayed friends. And over the years, she's created her own animation, little animation empire. And when she called me she goes, "I have a show. Cool. I actually have a real show where we could pay you and this is the job." And I was like, "I'm in." I said, "Don't worry about a thing. I'm in." And so I did 2 characters on the show. And it was a lot of fun to record. I recorded it and the great thing was when the pandemic started, I had to buy equipment. So I recorded it in my closet. So I have, soundproof stuff in my closet, and this is my podcast room. And then I have the other closet in my master bedroom where I record all my cartoons.
The pandemic has changed how we do life.
It's funny. There's the pandemic's changed, and it's terrible and wrong. And I really want us to get the vaccine and get everything out there. But it's also showed the resilience of the human nature of what people can do. And people go, we have to survive. We have to keep going. So, okay. And so most of my friends and I who do voiceover stuff, if we didn't already have a small studio in our house, we have one now. And I've recorded a lot of material in my closet. And it's so funny because after a while, you end up being a tech guy yourself. You're like, I wasn't a tech guy until March 2020. And I was like, GarageBand, there's no need for that. I'll just go and do it. Someone else will do it. Now I'm editing stuff together and putting videos together. I'm like, I can do it. I didn't know I had this skill. But if you're starving, you got to find a way to eat.
It's true. And that's a good segue to ask you. So what's next? What's going on now? Where can people who have already enjoyed you in so many different roles that they know, what can they be looking forward to? Anything that you can share with us?
That's the thing. I've got a couple projects coming up, animation projects coming up, but I can't talk about right now. But they will be out. If you haven't heard certain things, Tangled is on Disney Plus, DuckTales is on Disney Plus, Vampirina is on Disney Plus. So is um, Princess Avalon. She's on Disney Plus, so I'm there. And also, if you go to Broadway HD, you can see me in Memphis. But also, there's different things. I also do a Marvel podcast, This Week in Marvel. I'm there. I'm one of the co-hosts for that. So if you're everything Marvel, everything comics, and MCU, you can go there and listen to me there. And yeah, you never know where I'll pop up. And also, Broadway hopefully will be back in the fall. And if it is, you will see me on stage doing my thing. And I'll always be on Instagram acting completely stupid because that's kind of how I see social media. I'm like, oh no, it's everybody wants. Don't get me wrong, I get serious every now and then. Most of them are like, I'm an entertainer. My job is to make people smile. My job is to take people away from the realness and craziness of the world for a little while. And you want to be entertained, and that's what I love doing, and that's what that's where my heart is. So I get on social media just to make people laugh and make people smile.
I would love to see you on some project with the Muppets. I feel like you'd be great with those guys.
Listen, that's the other dream. My other dream is to sing with the Electric Mayhem. That's my dream. Is to have a moment. I got to do a moment. My friend Bill Sherman is the musical director for Sesame Street, so I got to do a moment with Sesame Street with Good Morning America a couple years ago. So you may be able to find that me singing with Big Bird and a couple other characters. But to be with the Muppets I think I would cry again. Every time if you see me crying, it's because of some childhood thing that came back into my life. But yeah, to be with the Muppets would be another dream come true. Yeah.
Well, Muppet Babies isn't that far over on Disney Junior.
Trust me,
Matt,
I'm 6.
Matt Danner.
Yeah, I'm 6 degrees, away from that. My homegirl Renee does the Renee from Hamilton. She plays Angelica. She does the theme song. She sings the theme song for Muppet Babies. So
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I can't thank you enough for joining us. This has been amazing.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
I honestly, I've got so many more questions. I completely forgot about the Marvel. You wrote you recently. It was one issue, or have you written more?
I wrote. I was in 3 issues. There was one called Marvel Presents #3. That was my first comic, and I got to write a Spider-Man comic. And people say, write what you know. And I love professional wrestling, and I was like, oh, what happened if Crusher came back? And Crusher is the original villain for the Spider person, or the Spider when Peter wasn't exactly Spider-Man yet. When he got, they got the money when he was professional wrestling, got the money and left, and then the guy walks past him and he says, "Let's not do that," and that guy ends up killing Uncle Ben, and there's Spider-Man. Well, the wrestler in there, I wrote a story where he comes back, and I brought Dr. Voodoo in, and then I got asked to be a part of the 80th anniversary of Marvel. And I got to write a story with Rocket and Groot, a 1-page story with Rocket and Groot, which was a lot of fun. And then there was one called Marvel Voices, which is a comic book that featured writers of color. And I got to write a story, and I decided to go back to Spider-Man, but create a new. I talked about the spider that bit Peter. And so I've had some fun with Marvel, and hopefully get to do more things with them.
You probably were a big fan of the DuckTales wrestling episode then.
Oh, yeah, come on.
Rumble for Ragnarok.
I lost it. I was like, they know me. It's like, it's almost like they're in my house going, we should write this for James. James is going to dig this. So that happens all the time. My wife was like, did you talk to him? I was like, no, I just saw them once.
Yeah, we had Tanner Johnson on a couple of weeks ago, and he was involved with that episode, and I was like his baby, and he just loves everything that has to do with wrestling. So,
oh, listen, it's so sad. I have used most of my Broadway prowess just to kick it with professional wrestlers. I mean, I happen to be, I'm good friends with Dave Bautista, who plays Drax. I'm good friends with Kevin Owens from the WWE, and also a couple of brothers from AEW, Chris Angel, all those guys. Please, Becky Lynch, also Alexa Bliss. So I am good friends with the folks who do that, because that's what I thought I was going to do. I thought I was going to be a professional wrestler, and then I saw somebody get hit for real, and I was like, oh, that mess is real. It was a black dude. It was a black dude. He was in the corner. They do that Ric Flair chop, and there was a handprint on the brother. No disrespect to lighter folks of my human family, but when you hit a brother really hard and you can see a handprint, I was like, oh, this might be a little more than I called for. And so I decided to go into something easier, like Broadway, thinking, like I'll never get hurt on Broadway. And so the wrestlers come to see our shows, and it's so funny because they go, "How do you do that 8 shows a week?" And I go, "How do you do that? How do you fall through a table?" They're like, "Yeah, but you're tap dancing on steel." And I was like, "Yeah, my knees do feel like I've been tap dancing on steel." So me and the wrestlers trade injuries. We always talk about, "Oh yeah, I cut my hand." I was like, "Oh, I ran into a set right here and cut my head." And we were laughing back and forth about how dangerous Broadway is. And I'm like, "I'm just doing Aladdin and damn near killing myself." But as long as the fans are happy, that's what we do. We kept saying, we both had the same mantra, like, if the fans are happy, we're happy. I'm like, and that means we're insane. That's what it means.
That's the entertainment industry.
Straight up.
That's awesome. Well, James, thank you again, and it's been a wonderful conversation, and we hope to speak with you again sometime.
Please do. Hopefully we'll get a chance to do something else, and you guys will ask me to be back.
Oh,
count on it. Fingers crossed for the reboot.
Fingers crossed.
You got it, man. Me too. Thanks, you guys. Have a great night.
Thank you.
All right, Doug fans, this is Mitch, and I'm recording this a few days later, just kind of wrapping things up, getting the edit done, and realized that we had such a good time, and James was so gracious with his time for the interview that we didn't record an outro for this episode, and I wanted to make sure that we thank James again for joining us, and also for all of you for listening to the podcast over these years and just supporting us and helping us make sure other Duck fans are in the know on what's going on. And it's just been a great ride the last few years, and I know we're coming to the end of the show, and we are awaiting the announcement of the final episodes. Season 3 will continue on February 22nd, and we know that the show will be back with Beaks in the Shell, but there's not a lot of information other than that, and as far as what's next, what's coming next. And I know that's been the topic of the discourse here recently. A lot of people wanting to talk about what's next, how many episodes are left, and all that, and we'll be getting to that in the future, I'm sure. It's going to be a wild ride to the end. We're all going to enjoy it together. So thank you for checking out DuckTalks. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Thank you, James, for joining us. And check us out over at DuckTalks.com. It's where we try to keep up with all the news around DuckTales and the Disney Afternooniverse. We're thankful for the opportunity to offer you all this podcast, and we enjoy having conversations over on Twitter with all the people who are listening and people who aren't. You don't have to listen to our podcast to talk with us or to hang out. Join us over on Twitter at DuckTalks, and we're on other social media as well. We're just never really found never got comfortable with the other platforms. That's just where we are normally. You can check us out there. My name's Mitch, and it's been great. So until next time, stay glom golden. I messed that up. He's not going to let me live this down. He's going to listen to this one, I'm sure. Stay glom golden. And if you can dream it, you can do it. Thanks, everyone.